Hey guys, how y'all doing? Sorry I can't be there. I do have COVID, but I'll be back Wednesday, so I'm only gone today and tomorrow. Um, but we do need to continue our work and going over this concept. So make sure you have your notebooks, okay? Make sure you're open on this page. If you do not have this page, if there's a sub in the room, tell her there's extra copies in my desk in that middle top drawer, okay, where you could keep all the pens. Open it, and I have a stack of papers in there. An extra copy of these will be in there. Um, I believe Johnny, you may need one of these, and Liana, you may need one of these as well. I don't think you got one. Um, all right, but we did do example one, and if you weren't here, I'm gonna kind of go over it again, so you could know what we did, and then we're gonna go over example two. So if you didn't write any of this down for example one, make sure you're writing it down, and then for example two, just follow along with us. Okay, we are gonna put our numbers from least to greatest, right? So you can see that I already have the least to greatest up there. But this is how you're gonna do that if you haven't done it. Okay, you look at your data and you write your smallest number. So I wrote the 3, and then while you're writing that, you want to cross it out on top, right? So the 3 is crossed out. My next number is a 9. Cross out the 9. My next number is a 9 again. Cross out the 9 again. My next number is another 9. Cross out the other 9, and then 11. Cross out the 11. And I have a 12. Cross out the 12. Then I have a 15, cross out the 15. I have another 15, cross out the 15. I have a 17, cross out the 17. I have an 18, cross out the 18. And then I have a 20, cross out the 20. Right? So we have all our numbers gone. We have all our numbers taken. If you could also count them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? So those are our numbers from least to greatest. If you're writing it down, you need to slow down, pause the video, do what you have to, get your stuff written down, and then come back to it, right? So this is the 5 number summary, and these are the 5 numbers we're gonna get: the minimum, the Q1, the Q2, which is also our median, the Q3, and our maximum, right? So when we have our numbers from least to greatest, our minimum is always a number in the front. It's always this first number, the number that we're gonna put at the very beginning, our smallest number. So that right there, that is our minimum. So I'm gonna circle it. I'm gonna write minimum right next to it, and then right over here, I'm gonna write the number 3, right? Now, if the minimum is at the beginning, right, the minimum, the least number, that means the maximum, the highest number, is going to be at the end. So this is my maximum number, right? And I'm going to label that as max. And then I'm also going to write that down, right? So I'm going to go to max. I'm going to say that my number was 20. Now, that is the minimum and the maximum. Those are the easiest ones you can find, okay? So after you find the minimum and the maximum, the one you have to find next is Q2, the median, the middle number, because we cannot find our Q1 or our Q3 until we find that middle number. So the third one that we're going to find is the third one down the list, right? Q2, the median, right? That is the middle. So the way we get to the middle is we eliminate from the front and we eliminate from the back. So you can see I have all these little tabs here. I'm going to put these tabs up here, and you're just going to mark it with your pencil, right? So we take one from the front, and then we take one from the back, then we take one from the front, take one from the back, take one from the front, take one from the back, take one from the front, take one from the back, and you just go back and forth from the front, from the back. And you're going to be left with either 1 or 2 numbers in the middle. On this one, it's only 1. So this number right here, that's my middle number. That is going to be my Q2, right? That is my Q2. That is my middle number. So I'm going to put the Q2 label under there. You're going to go ahead and label it Q2. So over here in your 5-number system, after you wrote that down, you're going to put that is number 12. Okay. Now, when you do the middle, right, you're going to get 2 halves, right? This over here, that's the lower half. As you could tell, 12 is my middle. All these numbers are lower, are going to be equal or lower to that middle number. So these are all lower, right? this is where I get my first quartile, my lower half, right? So my Q1 is going to go in order 1, 2, 3. So Q1 is in my lower half. So you can see that I marked these out going this way. So now when I have to find my middle number, I'm going to get my Q1. I'm going to find the middle number. I'm just going to cross them out the other way, right? So again, just like how we did the whole thing, this time I'm going to start from the beginning. But now I'm going to go to the end right here of just the lower half. I'm not going all the way across, right? And then you're going to go from right here and then right here. And then you're left with one number right in the middle, that lower half, which is 9, right? That number 9 right there, that is your Q1, okay? That is your first quartile, okay? Your first quartile. So I'm going to put that Q1 right there underneath it, okay? And then over here on Q1, I'm going to put that Q1 is 9, okay? Now, that's my lower half. Just like I have a lower half, I'm also going to have an upper half, right? And these upper halves are going to be the bigger numbers, right? So again, to find a Q3, because it goes in order right here, it goes 1, 2, 3, right? We're going to find the middle number here. And some of you are going to be able to already see that number. But just in case we don't make mistakes, there's a strategy, right? And we take 1 from the front, and then we take 1 from the back, 1 from the front, 1 from the back. And then we're left with that number right here in the middle. This time it's 17. And that 17 is going to be our Q3. Okay, so right here on Q3, I'm going to write 17. That is how you find your 5-number summary. Pretty simple, right? All you do is you label them from least to greatest. Your minimum is the beginning, your max is at the end, and you're going to find the middle 3 times. You're going to find the middle to separate from all the data, and then that's going to separate the lower and upper half. Then you find the middle of the lower half, then you find the middle of the upper half. Now there's some other things we need to answer right here, right? So this one says find a range, all right? And the range is the entire data. So when you hear the word range, you're going to subtract, right? And when it's range by itself, it's the entire data. It is everything, right? So you can see that our numbers are already kind of marked out here, but we also wrote them down. And then right here, if you look at the instructions, there's 2 instructions. It says find the maximum minimum, and the second step says to subtract. So that first step is really important because it's telling you to find the maximum and the minimum. And you got to notice that it's saying right here which number it wants first, right? It wants the maximum number first. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at my maximum number, and it is 20. And again, it says the second step is to subtract. So we're going to be subtracting, okay? Now what you subtract is the minimum number, and it is second, right? So that's why we're subtracting that second. So the minimum number is 3. Now, go ahead and do 20 minus 3, right? You could open up your calculators, and you know that that is 17, right? So 17, that is my range. That means there's 17 spots from the lowest to the highest number, okay? That is my range, okay? Now the IQR, interquartile range, IQR. Now we hear that word range again. And I said when you hear that word range, that means to subtract, right? But this time you have that word quartile on it, and you can see it right here on the first step. It says find your quartile 3 and your quartile 1. So now, yes, we're going to subtract and we're finding a range, but now we're finding that range of that quartiles, the inside, that middle part, that range from this middle to this middle, right? We're looking for that little spread right there from this quartile to that quartile. And notice again which quartile it wants you to find first. Just like it wanted us to find the max first, this time it wants us to find us the biggest quartile, which is always going to be that third quartile. So we're going to find that quartile 3, which we already found. It's 17. And we're going to subtract it from quartile 1, which is that smallest quartile, which is 9. Now, when you do that on your calculator, right, you're going to everybody open up their calculator. You're going to just subtract those 2 really quick. So it is going to be 17 minus 9. And that's going to be 8, right? So this is 8, right? Our interquartile range, our IQR, is 8, right? Now, this is the part that we left off on, okay? We did leave off on graphing it. Now, when we graph it, all we're going to work on right now, we're just going to put the dots on the number line, So for instance, um, we're gonna put them in order right here. So I know right here you can't really see the 5 number systems because we're gonna plot that 5 number summary, but that 5 number summary we wrote off to the side. Um, Sorry, I was kind of blowing my nose. You're gonna go in, you're gonna put them right, and the way I plot them is I always find the minimum and maximum first. I'm always gonna put the minimum and maximum first, right? So my minimum is 3. Okay, that means I'm gonna get. Oh, let me fix that dot. That means right here I'm gonna go to that 3. I'm gonna go right above that 3, and I'm gonna put that dot right there, right? And that dot was my minimum, so I'm gonna label that as my minimum. That was the first thing I found over here. My next thing I found was my max was 20. So that's the next number I'm going to plot, right? So I'm going to get this dot. I'm going to put it right over here on top of 20. And I'm going to say that that is my maximum. Okay. Now, the reason I do that is because notice that your minimum is 3 and your maximum is 20, and all those other numbers fall right between those. So when I'm graphing them, my quartiles, 1, 2, 3, I know that it needs to stay between these 2 dots. And I also need to know that it needs to go in order 1, 2, 3. So when I'm plotting these, I'm going to take a mental note to make sure, like, hey, is my minimum first, is my maximum last, and do my quartiles go in order 1, 2, 3. So quartile 1 is 9. So I'm going to get a dot. I'm going to put that right on number 9, and that's going to be my Q1, right? And then I'm going to say my quartile 2, which is my median, was 12. That was the middle of my complete data, so I'm going to go right here to 12. And I'm going to say that that was my Q2. And then I'm going to say that my last one was Q3, which is 17. And I'm going to go right here on 17. And I'm going to say that that was my Q3. Right? So now I check, is my minimum first? Yes. Is my maximum last? Yes. Does my quartiles go 1, 2, 3? 1, 2, 3. Yes. So that means that my data is pretty accurate. If I did my math right and I did my middle things right, my dots should be correct. Okay. Notice that some of the times the spread's going to be a little bit bigger. Right here, we see that spread is a little bit wider than these spreads. This spread is a little bit wider than those spreads, because this is just how it's going to look on the number line, meaning that these numbers are spread apart a little bit further. When it's in data, it's going to look pretty even, but once you put it on the number line, it may not look so even, but it's just the way it's going to look because the spread of the data. All right. This is very similar to what we're going to do example 2. Okay. So in example 2, I already wrote the numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have all of them. So my first number, 84. I'm going to cross out 84. Then I have an 87. Cross off 87. Another 87. Cross off 87. 88. Cross off 88. 90. Cross off 90. Another 90. Cross off 90. 92. Cross off 92. 95. Cross off 95, 96, cross off 96, and then 97. Right? So all my numbers, I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 numbers, 10 numbers. That means I match, right? If you need time to write this down, pause the video and write those numbers right here from least to greatest. Okay, make sure they match. That's our first step. Order the values from least to greatest. Our second is find the low, high, and the middle. The low is the minimum, the high is the maximum, and the middle is Q2. So those are the first things that we're going to find, right? That's our second step. So our minimum is always the first number. Remember, the minimum is always our first number. Okay, so that means that this right here, that is my minimum. So I'm going to put that there, and then I'm going to mark that as my minimum. Okay. Just trying to put it on there so you can see it, because that box, maybe I'll just take that outline of that box off. Right. Now, if our minimum is at the beginning, that means our maximum is going to be, yes, that's right, at the end. Okay, so our maximum right here is at the end. So I have my minimum. I have that over here, 84. So I'm gonna type that down, and I have my maximum, 97. Okay, now it says and the middle, the median, the Q2, right? And the way we do that is we take from the front and take from the back, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take one from the front, and then take one from the back, take one from the front, take one from the back, take one from the front, take one from the back, take one from the front, take one from the back. Now, if I take one from the front and from the back, notice that it's not going to leave me any type of number right there, right? So right here, we have two numbers. That means our middle is between these two numbers, okay? I have to find a number that's going to be placed between those two. Now, this one's an easier one because you notice that they're both 90. Now, when they're both the same number, that's going to be your middle, okay? So I'm showing you one first that's easier, showing that they're both the same number. But there's a trick to it. Our 90, that middle number is actually going to be between those two numbers. It's going to go right in the middle. So I'm going to draw a line between those middles, and then I'm going to say, hey, you belong to that side, and you belong on that side, right? I'm kicking this 90 and a half onto the lower half. I'm kicking that 90 to the upper half. But I know that I have a Q2 right here. That line is Q2. And I also know that that Q2 was 90. Right? Because those two numbers are 90. And the number between 90 and 90 is 90. Okay? It's not going to change. All right? So I'm going to say over here, my middle number was 90. Okay? But I have to separate those two 90s to put one in the lower half and one in the upper half. Because I have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I have 5 numbers in my lower half, that means I have to have 5 numbers in that upper half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So now I have my lower half down here. Okay? This is my lower half. Now I know in my lower half, that's going to be where my Q1 is at. And just like I did up here, I crossed out till I found the middle. I have to do the same thing. I have to cross out until I find the middle number. Right? So I take one from the low, take one from the high, take one from the low, take one from the high, and then I'm left with one number right there in the center still, which is 87, and that is my Q1. Okay, so right over here on Q1, I'm going to come over here and write 87. That's my Q1. Then I'm going to come look over here, and I'm going to look at this upper half. Okay, I'm going to look at this upper half. It's called the upper half because they're going to be bigger numbers, right? And I have to do the same thing like I did up here to find my Q3. I have to find that middle number. So again, I take from the front, take from the, hold on, I need a couple more of those. Take from the back, take from the front, and then take from the back. And then I'm left with one number right there, and that is my Q3. Okay, so my Q3 was 95. Right, so now I have all my data. I have my minimum, my Q1, my Q2, my Q3, and my max. Is my minimum at the beginning like this one? Yes. Is my max at the end like this one? Yes. Does it go in order 1, 2, 3? 1, 2, 3? Yes. That means that I have all my numbers, my 5-number summary. I have everything that I need, and I wrote it all right here. So now I'm going to go through this, and it says find the range of the data. So find the maximum and the minimum. Again, I'm finding my maximum number first, which is 97. 97. And then my second thing is to subtract. So I'm subtracting, but I'm subtracting from my minimum, which was 84. And you're going to get an answer for that. That is your range. Okay? That is your range. Then it says find your inner quartile range. Okay? Again, pay attention to what it's asking for first. This is asking for my quartile 3. And the second step is still the same to subtract. So this time my quartile 3 over here was 95. I'm still subtracting. Let me take that highlighter off. 95. I'm still subtracting. And I'm subtracting from my quartile 1, which is 87. Right? So you are going to solve that, and you're going to tell me what that answer is, and you're going to solve this one and tell me what that answer is. So you're going to tell me what the minimum is, the range, right? Because the range is the full data. You're going to tell me what that range is, and you're going to circle that number. And then you're going to tell me what the IQR, the inner quartile range. And remember, when we see inner quartile, when we see that quartile word right here, that quartile word, or this Q in IQR, yes, we are talking about the range, but now we're talking about the Qs, the range of the Qs right here. Okay? And we need to know that. We need to know that when we see that Q word, we're talking about those quartile ranges. Okay? So that's when we're only using those Qs. And usually we're not even using that middle one. We're really just using the quartile 3 and the quartile 1 because that's our smallest Q and that's our biggest Q. That's our minimum Q. That's our maximum Q. Okay? So just like down here on the 5 number summary, you're going to plot them right here. And you're going to go and like I said, I like to do them the way I found them. So the first thing I found was my minimum. On this one, my minimum's 84. So I'm going to get my dot. I'm going to put that dot on 84. And then I'm going to label that dot as my minimum. Then I'm going to plot my next one that I found, which was my maximum, which is 97. I'm going to get my dot, put it down here on 97. And then I'm going to label that as my maximum. Okay. Now I know that when I put my quartiles in here, I need to have my quartiles between my minimum and maximum because all these numbers fall between my minimum and my maximum. And it needs to go order as Q1, Q2, and Q3. So my Q1 was 87. So I get a dot. I find my 87. And that will be my Q1. And my Q2 is 90. And that will be my Q2, which is also called my median. And then my Q3 was 95. So I go to 95. And that is my Q3. Okay. And the way we check this is my minimum is the 84. 84, yes. Is at the beginning? Yes. My max, 97. Max 97. Is it at the end? Yes. And then does it go in order? 1, 2, 3. Yes. And I can say 87, 87, 90, 90, 95, 95. Right? So if I told you to find my middle number, right? My middle number, you have to remember that the middle number is the Q2. It's always that Q2, right? So that will be your middle number. Okay. So that is how we do these. Okay. I'm gonna have a paper in Schoology. You're gonna go and you're gonna put the answer for this minimum, maximum, this IQR, this one, and this one, and you're gonna use the information on this to answer those questions on there. Okay. So if you did all your notes on here, all you have to do is go to Schoology and just copy these assignments into that paper. Okay, on that Schoology, and you're gonna hit submit and submit it, and that'll be your grade for the day. Tomorrow we will go over example 3 and example 4. Okay, we will go over those two. May not go over example 3, may just be example 4 because I do need to show you something else and kind of lost the day on Friday since I wasn't there. So I may not show you example 3 just because it's just kind of very similar to the numbers having in the list. The only thing is we have to write those numbers out because it's in a dot graph. And I think we're pretty good at reading those. It was a stem and leaf that we kind of struggled on. So I want to be able to show you that one tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow we'll probably do this. And then I'm going to show you how to do this truth and lies. Okay. This is what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. How to read one of these. A little bit. How to answer these questions. Because then you're going to have to answer one on your own. All right. Miss y'all guys. Stay healthy. Make sure you're not giving the sub a hard time. Make sure that you have all of these notes written down. Okay, make sure you have the answers to these. Make sure you have the answers to all of this stuff, because you are going to be required to write all these answers down on Schoology. Okay, that's where your work's going to be. That is how I'm going to get your grade for these next couple of days. And I will make a video for Tuesday. Okay, this video is about 25 minutes long. You have time to pause it. You have time to rewind it, to rewatch it if you have to, and you have time to get on Schoology. So there should be no excuses on why you did not enter your work on Schoology. Okay, copy everything down. Make sure you do it, and then go put it on Schoology. Make sure you put your notebooks back up, okay? Somebody be in charge, grab the notebooks, put them back up on the shelf on the counter, and make sure if you grab the new glue sticks or you grab the new pencils, make sure you put those pencils and glue sticks back, okay? Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Adios.